Hello friends and welcome to Liverpool Latest. Today's video will be focusing on a few things regarding the Champions League match against PSG later on today. And we'll have a couple of pieces of news to get to before that. First and foremost, let's talk about Kostas Tsimikas. Now, according to Liverpool Transfer Room or LFC Transfer Room on Twitter, a Greek outlet with the at Sport24, according to them, Liverpool have informed Kostas Tsimikas that he is expected to be the number 2 left back next season. Tsimikas is currently on loan at AS Roma and is expected to come back at the end of the season. Now, I have heard things throughout the course of the season about Tsimikas' loan to Roma. It seems as though it has not gone very well from any report I have seen. I've talked about it briefly on the show in the past. Here's what I will say. It makes complete sense to bring Tsimikas back. Tsimikas is not my first choice. I think that goes without saying. I think Tsimikas at times is a bit That said, he is still reliable. I think he would make for a good number 2 behind Kerkez. I think Kerkez has far exceeded him in the short time that he has been a part of the club. And I think that giving him a bit of a rest periodically with Tsimikas as the number 2 will be a much better option, as opposed to going and basically having to sign an entire new left back for millions of dollars that we can, use elsewhere in the transfer window. So if you ask me, this is a pretty solid move if it is true by Liverpool and Tsimikas alike. I'm sure he wants to return back to the club if the Roma loan has gone as poorly as reported and how I've talked about in the past. And I would like to see the Greek Scouser back. Again, he's not my favorite player. I find him to be a bit iffy at times, but it's always nice to have someone that you know is reliable, at least, that knows the, that kind of knows the program as opposed to having to sign a new player and get him used to the program. So I think Tsimikas returning at the end of the season, going into next season as a number 2 will probably be the best option for us, in my humble opinion. Another bit of news I've seen today is in regard to Xabi Alonso. According to a Tribuna report, Xabi Alonso's future lies at Liverpool, and that is a direct quote. At the same time, it seems as though he is off the table for other clubs who are looking for new players. I think it goes without saying that Man City have also been in the process of trying to find a new manager for the team, as it seems as though Pep Guardiola's run there is coming to an end at the end of the season. I think you can pretty much say that was going to happen sooner rather than later, considering the season that they had last year when we won the Premier League. I think there was some personal issues that Pep was dealing with that probably affected, his professional life kind of probably affected his personal life, and lo and behold, I think he decided to step away for a period of time, which is probably going to be a good move. Having that much pressure for such a big club like Man City is going to be, can get to anybody and affect personal lives in any capacity. It seems as though Man City are expected to choose Enzo Maresca as opposed to Xabi Alonso, which is good news for us because if, and only if, keyword, only if, Arne Slot is sacked at the end of the season, regardless of today's outcome, or if they decide to do it at the end of the, Premier League run, this is probably the best outcome we can have if true. That's all I could say. I do believe that there are a couple of other clubs looking at Xabi, but I don't think Liverpool would let an opportunity like this slide. I think they did already when he went to Real Madrid. I don't think they're going to make that same mistake again. If the decision to remove Slot from the manager position is true, Xabi is all but, I think, the best guy for the job as it stands right now. So obviously it's been reported that he's highly regarded and linked with Liverpool ever since the severe doubt of Slot's managerial skills came into play a few months ago. And when Xavi left Real Madrid, he was probably the first name that came out of anybody who's a Liverpool fan's mouth who dislikes Slot to take that position. Here's the deal. There is no reliable Tier 1 source confirming that Alonso is choosing Liverpool or that there is any agreement with Liverpool. I think I've debunked this already, as much as I hated debunking it. Any sort of personal terms that have been said have been debunked. There's no major source confirming any of this, which is a bit of a bummer. It seems as though, at least publicly, from what I have read, the club is still backing Arne Slot regardless of what's been going on these last several months. So we have to think about this from a narrative versus a reality point of view. Yes. Am I one to talk about the anti-Slot rhetoric and the anti-Slot agenda here on the channel because I personally dislike what Arne Slot has been doing to my club? Yes, I am. Do I think he deserves to be manager next season? Most likely no. I don't dislike the guy personally, but as far as what it takes to be a Liverpool manager, words are hard, I apologize, I don't think Slot is the guy for the job right now. I think having to have who is virtually more or less unknown, to be honest with you. I didn't know who Arne Slot was before, he got the job. Having to replace someone like Klopp, having those kinds of shoes to fill is a big deal, okay? I think he fared well the first time around, the first year with the championship. I do think that there are outside sources that did help him in that matter, considering that it was more or less Jurgen Klopp's team that won the title. And I think once he started implementing his own tactics into the team after it was already confirmed that we had won the championship, that's when you kind of start seeing the cracks into place. Or, more sooner, the Carabao Cup loss against Newcastle at Wembley just a handful of months prior. So, there was no shock to me that it would be no shock to me that if Liverpool decide to finally part ways with Slot, that Xabi Alonso should be the utmost first person at the top of the list because he does keep getting linked, regardless of whether it's true or not. The thing is that we don't really know what the power structure is looking like right now at Liverpool. Is he going to keep the job? A lot of people are saying yes, or a lot of people that are close to the club are reporting that they're still backing him. I frankly cannot fathom the idea of backing a manager that has been performing so poorly since I've started watching and being a fan. So, considering other clubs have done a lot more trying to sack managers and get themselves out of rough positions. So, I think while it's overstated that the future lies at Liverpool, quote unquote, it's also realistic to think that Xabi is in fact still a very highly considered candidate if Liverpool decide to pull the trigger and say, hey, listen, Slot, we thank you for your time. We wish you the best on your future endeavors, and it's time for us to go into a different direction. So I hope that happens. Not that I like anybody losing their job, but if someone's not as good as their job is advertised, I would like a change of scenery, personally speaking. I would have liked to have a change of scenery months ago, but beggars can't be choosers. Let's talk about team news, man. Today's a big day. Today is do or die for Liverpool. So here is the brief team news going into today's game, injuries and, returns alike. Isak is probably the biggest of the names of the bunch. He returned from training recently. Of course, he's available for selection. Do I think he should start? I'm not necessarily in agreement with that. I don't think he is fully ready to start. But I do think he can play a major role on the bench. This would be his first involvement, at least in the Champions League, since December, or at least around that time, it's his first involvement. As it's probably been noted, Alisson Becker's probably going to be out. Mamardashvili will be back in net. I worry about that a little bit, frankly. Granted, I don't necessarily blame Amardashvili for one of those goals that occurred during the first lineup at PSG in France. I think the second goal was definitely his fault. I think the first goal, there's really nothing much he can really do about. It just kind of happened. It was a bad bounce. Shit happens, all right? Obviously, we also know that other players are definitely not going to be available, like Connor Bradley, Endo, Leone. Those should go without saying, but clearly Liverpool's official website decides to continuously include them in the list because they're part of the injured list. As far as the tactical context of it all, this is going to be a very difficult game for us against a already top team in Europe. And it is a team that we need to play much more aggressively against. I think we played far too passive, though for good reason, in the first game. We're now down 2-0 in the aggregate. So it is up for us to be more aggressive, much more. We need that fight, man. We need that fight. I think Isak being back in the lineup for this is definitely going to help. I believe that he is going to have a big impact if he is to find time on the field. And I believe if the proper substitutions are put in place and that they could feed him the ball, I believe that that will probably be the best outcome to give Isak a much-needed goal to after such a horrific season and a return from a horrendous injury that we all saw suffer before our very eyes. So, as a matter of fact, it should go without saying that it's funny that I've been talking about this because I've been seeing quotes all day. I don't know if it was from Slot or from Dominic Soboslai or whoever, but it seems as though the general consensus amongst players or anyone who was reporting quotes from the players that the team is quote-unquote ready to die, like Biggie Smalls, in this match. This match is at Anfield. Quarterfinal, second leg matchup. We're down 2-0. As I said, got to start off hot. Got to start fast. Got to start guns blazing. There can't be any of this passive pussy shit going around. We would be doing a disservice to ourselves if we start the game as slow as we did the last time. And like I said, I understand why the lineup was put in place to begin with, because it was probably put in place to prevent any more goals than what was already going to happen at that first match in France. You ask me, we're lucky we walked away with a 2-0 win. Now we have to find ourselves in what could potentially be another quote-unquote miracle of Anfield situation, where if we can score 3 goals and they don't score any, we might be able to find ourselves in the semifinals of the Champions League coming up here. So, what should we do for a base system? Well, clearly, Slot will probably go to a 4-2-3-1. I think that goes without saying. I think the personnel is going to be much, much different than what we had. I think it's going to be far less defensive and far more offensive-minded with obviously our key defensive guys in place. I think the style of play is going to be, or should be, much different. It shouldn't be as passive. It should not be so on the back foot. It should be forward, balls to the wall. It should be, if they're saying that they're ready to die, I want you to show me you're ready to die. I want you to get into the shit, and I want you to push the final third and push the goalie and the net. And there should be far more shots on goal than what was given to us the last time around, which I believe was nothing. As a matter of fact, I think we had 3 shots all game. As long as we score early and generate momentum early and make the fans a factor on the field, because clearly Anfield has played little to no factor in much of the season, and I think this is the time where we need to make them, make them a factor in the match. Make Anfield the fortress that we know it to be. If there's any time where we need Anfield to be raucous and rockin' and absolutely batshit crazy, it is for this particular match for sure. The aggressive pressing needs to also be very, very important here, but it needs to be structured. We can't just be, pressing willy-nilly across the pitch here. So We definitely need more targeted pressing triggers and not so much reliance on chaos. Granted, a little bit of chaos is okay if the moment calls for it, but it certainly needs to have some sort of structure to it. As far as PSG, all they got to do is kill time. They can maybe score one goal and it could solidify the entire series for them right then and there. All they need to do is score one goal. We're not going to come back from a 3-0 aggregate. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. As long as PSG could sit back and do almost next to nothing, which I doubt they'll do, because they don't have to do a whole lot of anything in this match. We're the ones that have to chase them. They don't have to chase us. Now, they could add insult to injury, score more goals, be more punishing in the transitions, and control the tempo. Yeah, they'll probably end up winning this match. But we can't allow them to get to that point. So, as far as the key tactical battles go, it's going to be the Liverpool press versus the PSG buildup. Liverpool need to win the ball high, and if PSG break the press, if PSG break the press, Liverpool will probably end up being exposed on the defensive end as they have been all season. I think that goes without saying. So our boys in the back four need to be putting on the performance of a lifetime for this to go well. Mohamed Salah, if he plays and starts, because this will more than likely be his last Champions League appearance if we do not move forward in the aggregate. He needs to have a factor in this. I think the game needs to play out, if it can. The game needs to play out similarly to how it played out with Fulham over the weekend. That's what I think. I think with Salah, he did relatively well from what I watched when it came to his performance on the field. It's been better than it was in a long time, I can tell you that much. So he needs to definitely get into a penetrative position and, of course, create chances for both himself or even his fellow teammates because I think while we need to be selfish, we also need to understand that other players might have opportunity more so than that one with the ball. So if we somehow find an opportunity to score, we should take it any chance we can, whether it's taking an assist or taking a goal, depending on who has the ball. The defensive line versus the PSG pace. The defense was very poor the last time around. Van Dijk was arching his back like he was twerking. Luckily, Konate did not give out a penalty, and the aggregate stayed 2-0. But the boys need to be solid as a rock. They need to just have a much better performance than they did last time. All right, they need to understand what's at stake here. This can go between being incredibly embarrassing of a performance to possibly the greatest performance of their entire careers. There is little to no in between the two, frankly. They will either get incredibly obliterated and embarrassed, or they will be as solid as a fucking rock that is millions of years old and can't be broken. There is no in between here. Because that's how the Liverpool defense has worked all season. And they need to be that rock for us to basically keep the aggregate as low as it is right now and potentially giving us an opportunity to, well, score, frankly. So, let us make one more appearance in the Champions League and hope to God that if they're as willing to die as they say they are, show me it. Don't just speak. Show. Words mean nothing if the actions behind it are not cohesive with it. So, boys, I wish you well. I hope you win. I have no expectations at all. And most of the time when I have no expectations, I am left heartbroken. But the last time that happened, it was against Fulham, and we won. So, boys, please, don't embarrass us again this season. Up the Reds. You'll never walk alone. I will see you guys on the next one. Win or lose. Let's do it, baby.